Well, gang, you had to have known that eventually it was going to happen.
And it was awful. And it was really taking a toll on my mental health because I have to walk my dog, right? So at least 2 or 3 times a day.
Before we get started on this video, guys, this article right here will be placed in the description box. You guys know me. I don't read things verbatim. I will be playing a bit of the article because obviously people are reading the article out there. And of course, there's obviously somebody else who's had a run-in with TYT in his past that's been reading the article. It kind of brings up a very, very good point. But we'll get to that here soon. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video as I explain to you guys why it is that, yeah, this day right here was in fact coming. I just wonder how long it will take for the PragerU video to come out. I'm going to take a wild guess and say it's probably going to be about a year or two. It's probably going to be after the election because I'm pretty sure that Ana will not admit out loud that she voted for Trump, or she'll lie and say that she did not. However, I've been calling this for a while that eventually Ana Kasparian would come out and basically say, I've left the left. And of course, there are a lot of people out there calling her a hypocrite, calling our past hypocrisies, and I understand why. But I don't want to focus so much on the past things that she said, whether it be the time that she did that whole I'm better than you rant, or all the other nasty things that she has said to conservatives over the past. I have been pretty consistent, by the way, in trying to say that maybe what we should be doing is trying to steer her on the right path. However, questions do, in fact, remain. So I'm going to be splitting this right up into 2 videos. Of course, this video right here will be coming out tomorrow, right around lunchtime. And, of course, part 2 will come out on Friday. The reason why I'm doing it in 2 parts is because I think I need better explain to you guys exactly what it is that this woman will probably do in the future, because there's actually no indications that she's going to be, how do I say, removed from her job at the Young Turks. She's obviously still going to be there. Also, online leftist Savvy Sab, she made a very, very good point about this. I actually listened to her video because I found out from her that Ana Kasparian left the left, not any other content creators. And of course, she had some very interesting things to say. Of course, also calling out her past hypocrisies, but still, at the same time, though, she made a very good point about what it was that Ana may do in the future. But then again, at the same time, though, they're also comparing this to the Dave Rubin situation. So how did we get here? If you guys remember, Ana Kasparian a while back, and of course this right here goes way before she went on Jillian Michaels and told the story about how it was that she was assaulted in LA outside of her home, which I think was really the moment that it actually occurred. I mean, there are these people in Chicago right now who are dealing with the migrant crisis, who typically tend to vote Democrat, who are now coming out to vote Republican because they're now living with the policies that, of course, they voted for. And, of course, it's red pill them. Let me just kind of give you guys a bit of a peek on this.
Zoom in on that clown. He's the most disrespectful individual that you've ever seen. Now he's gonna stand up. Oh, he looking at his boy Tommy like what? What, you need to co-sign that he's a knucklehead? See, they engage in this type of rhetoric and nonsense. Look at him. That's the reason why we are $1 billion in debt. Because we got knuckleheads like Jason Urban at the top. Yeah, put this on YouTube. We go to Chicago. Famous. Y'all want to be famous for disrespecting us and disrespecting your citizens? We're about to make y'all famous. We got 30-some days to get Trump in office. Come on, Trump. Come on.
That clip, by the way, will be coming back up in tomorrow's video that will be coming out later on about the situation in Chicago, because the mayor, of course, has decided to go full-blown Stalin. But yes, it was her getting attacked back in 2022 outside of her home while she was walking her dog. Now, before we get to that story, though, we got to kind of go to some other moments where, of course, Ana Kasparian was kind of sort of red-pilled. Most of you guys know that the state of California has extremely lax laws, especially when it comes to crime or criminal activity. Lax punishment is probably the better phrase. Of course, some of these people don't even get punished. As a matter of fact, you're actually allowed to steal up to $900 in merchandise from the store and not get arrested. California doesn't want to put up with it. They obviously don't want to pay for it, but they also want to spend money on other crap, which we'll get to here in a second. Speaking of that, I want to go ahead and get to that right there now, because it was the Patrick Bet David podcast where I think that she really truly showed you guys that she was fed up.
There are certain issues that we've had for a long time. The drug war was a failure. And so going back to the drug war, I don't think is going to be effective. But you know what else isn't effective? Using taxpayer money, funneling it to nonprofits so they can literally buy crack pipes and hand them out at Skid Row.
And bleach
there is
pits.
video evidence of that.
How does that make
so
any sense?
anyone on the left who wants to come at me and pretend like this is just a right-wing scaremongering talking point, you're full of crap, and you should go online and you should watch the videos of literal. We spent $13 billion in Los Angeles alone last year to combat homelessness. You want to know where that money went? That money went to these trash nonprofits who have a bunch of executives making $500,000 a year. You're working for a nonprofit dealing with homelessness.
Useless nonprofits, war on drugs, of course, that did not work. All that type of stuff right there, giving people crack pipes. Oh, wait, that's right. There was a video that I made a while back that I will be linking in the description box of the video or putting in the end cards. I'll probably put all my Ana Kasparian videos in the description box, obviously, because you need to get over 1,000 characters. But I advise you guys, please watch them, because I've always focused on the fact that sometimes she will say some things that, quite frankly, do, in fact, make some sense. And we've been saying for a while that she's been drifting further and further and further away from the left, or at least the progressive side of the aisle for a while. I think it was Spoon made a video a while back. I think he took it down where he basically said that Ana Kasparian was not really and truly an actual true leftist. She was just somebody who, for the most part, was a part of the club. And I think that that right there is what the hell really and truly did it. But of course, this right here harkens back to the article that I mentioned at the very, very beginning of this video. And of course, we'll get to that here soon. Like I said, this video is going to be a little bit wonky in the way it's set up. But of course, I think I can properly document exactly the decision that she made and tell you guys if it's real or not. But still, also immigration. That was another thing that got her going. And of course, there's also this gem that I did a video on a couple of months ago.
Grilled about crime during her appearance on The View, and I loved seeing it. The elimination of money bail increased recidivism for people charged with nonviolent felonies, with recent criminal history, and with a recent violent felony arrest. And
in New York, the judges cannot take the violence of the crime into account. They can only take into account whether the person is going to flee or not. Well, that makes no sense. So
dismembering a corpse, not bail eligible, not a serious crime. I'm not even kidding, guys. I looked it up. It's real, guys. It's real. Listen, if being on the left means supporting this, then I'm not on the left, and I'm okay with that. Okay, so did further research because I just couldn't believe it. Here's more. With 2019 state reforms, mutilation and disposal of murdered corpses are among crimes that are no longer bail eligible. What are we doing? What are we doing?
New York had a person out there killing people. Body parts were being found in the subway. Pretty much, I want to say it was in Long Island. Yeah, stuff like that there. And of course, they had to speed it up. Or of course, the clip I got was sped up. So therefore, it probably sounds a little bit different than normal. But of course, if you guys think back, there have been other times where Ana Kasparian is basically giving you guys her honest to God thoughts on the left. I mean, there was this recent video that I did where, well, just pay attention to the end.
Let's do the same thing. So here, Octo Squiddy's a member on Twitch asked a good question. Cenk and Ana, please tell us who the left is that you keep referring to and never defining. I'd really like to know as a self-ascribed leftist. No problem, because that we do that sometimes on the show. You don't know what we're referring to. Do we mean the whole left wing? Absolutely not. Okay, the majority of the left wing is perfectly reasonable on this.
Are they? You and I
Ana,
might have a disagreement here, Cenk.
Yeah.
Of course, there was also that little bit on Stitch and Adam.
Strategy the left thinks they're engaging in is an effective strategy. I think it's actually caused more harm than good. I think their rhetoric and their discourse is a lot of times ignorant of the facts. And I think that they go around accusing people of doing things that they themselves engage in. And I was part of that too. I'm trying to do better moving forward. But a lot of people are going to look at this and think, oh, well, then that means she's a right winger. Whatever, you can call me whatever you want. I don't care what you label me as, but
just not birthing person.
Don't call me a birthing person.
And of course, there was also the birthing person situation. The fact of the matter is that Ana was never and really truly a woke leftist. She was somebody who, for the most part, was in the club because they accepted her. She was willing to toe the line. And after a while, Ana Kasparian began to wake up and realize that these people were exactly what I have said and so many others who have left the left. They're a bunch of loons. I never actually left the left, by the way. I was never on the left. I've always been very, very much a right-wing conservative. So if you are a left-wing, loony progressive, go ahead and hit that damn dislike button now, because I know you probably want to. Go ahead and get your cathartic release, because obviously all the soy that you're inhaling is obviously not going to help. While you're at it, why don't you go take a walk on a treadmill or something too? Why don't you do that there? The fact of the matter is that Ana Kasparian woke up and realized that these people were, in fact, loons. Okay, so before we get to TYT, before we get to the future, I want you guys to kind of see her re-explain her story to somebody else. So She went on Jillian Michaels' podcast the other day. Now, guys, I want to go ahead and say this real quick about Jillian Michaels. Jillian Michaels, she did a video a while back where she also went on Bill Maher and explained this exact same thing, where she basically went through all the infinity stones of wokeness that she had. I want to say that Jillian is gay, married to obviously a woman, has adopted children. I think she's even had a child, because I don't think she's always been. I'm not entirely sure. Somebody please fact check me in the comment sections, okay? Of course, those children happen to be mixed race, and of course, I think Jillian herself is mixed race, and of course, it was too daggone much for her, even if she was liberal, and of course, she lived very much in liberal California, that was too insane for her. You see, this woman with all the infinity stones of wokeness that you could have, she thought California was way too insane. So what did she do? She got the hell out of there. And of course, when she got the hell out of there, she realized that being on the left was just, just being around a bunch of crazy people. So like I said, she went on Jillian Michaels' podcast. And of course, there'll be more of that in the next video, because obviously I got to go through the mindset and talk about the actual future to see if she's actually being legitimate. But of course, you guys know me. I've been chronicling Anna's common sense takes, or the halfway decent takes that she's put out recently. So I tend to think that, yeah, it's probably somewhat genuine. But let's listen to this.
Weird, because it was unexpected, like super unexpected. I in 2022, it was around March. I was walking my dog. It was not quite dark yet, but the sun was setting. As I'm walking my dog, I see these two guys that were just kind of like moving around weirdly. They seemed kind of manic, and their clothes were tattered. So I knew that they were probably homeless. And I also knew that they're probably on something, just based on like the twitchy way they were acting. But living in LA, I mean, there's homeless people everywhere, right?
The homeless situation in California, as many of you know, is absolutely insane. And you've even had liberals like Michael Rappaport come out and say that the homeless situation was dangerous, okay? Obviously, it needs to be taken care of. Now, I personally don't think that you should just lock everybody up. But still, at the same time, though, you have to come up with a shelter. You have to come up with a system to get these people back on their feet so that way they can actually become productive again. I mean, you're going to have to do that, is all I got to say. But let's keep going.
Right. So I've never had problems. I didn't think anything of it. But as I was bending down to pick up my dog's mess, one of the guys like grabs me by my hips, and he had an erection.
Oh, God.
And just starts like humping me. And I didn't know what to do. Like, I was terrified. I didn't have a weapon on me.
Yep.
Like, I had no way of defending myself. I didn't know how far it was going to go, because it's two guys. I'm by myself with my little dog. It was one of the most terrifying things ever, because I'm pretty good at defending myself. In that moment, I just knew there was no option.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, he stopped, and they just laughed at me and walked away as they were laughing at me. And so there was the fear, and then the humiliation, and weirdly shame. Like, I felt ashamed for some reason. It was awful. And it was really taking a toll on my mental health, because I have to walk my dog, right? So at least 2 or 3 times a day.
That last part there about it taking a toll on her mentally, I actually believe that, because after the 2016 election, it said that she actually had to go get therapy. I'm being serious. She actually had to go get therapy. Trump, like I said, he turned so many people inside out. It was absolutely insane how triggered these people got that he got elected president. By the way, the vast majority of them would cope by saying he's a game show host, when they completely forgot about him being a real estate mogul and actually being in the public's eye since the late 1970s, and to a certain extent also being in the political sphere, whether it was an endorsement or being, being friendly with some people who are currently in Hollywood, actors and stuff. Donald Trump's been around for a while. It's amazing how it is that these people, it just completely just goes over here. And by the way, they'll also want to talk about how he is a failed businessman and he has bankruptcies, yet they don't tend to mention the billions of dollars of wealth that he has created. Matter of fact, every single businessman, they got a bankruptcy or two, they got a scandal or two, so it's going to come with the territory. But let's finish watching this.
Going outside, kind of scared. And so I opened up about this on the show, not really thinking much of it. And before I know it, I'm starting to get these messages, and it's like really, really harsh stuff. And it's about how you are painting a picture of the homeless community. How could you be like this? These are your unhoused neighbors and they need help.
a few people accused me of being racist when I had never disclosed the race of the individuals who did this to me. And in fact, they were white. And so like when they started accusing me of being racist, I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you assuming that the people who did this?
Of course.
Yeah, like I think you might have a problem here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that woke me up. That woke me up because I'm like, oh my God.
They eat their own, mama.
Some of the people.
They eat their own on the extreme left.
And some of the people that I've associated myself because I thought these are the good people.
Yep.
These are the ones who don't treat others differently based on their skin colors. No, they definitely have stereotypes in their head and are totally blind to the fact that they have those stereotypes and in fact go around accusing others of being bad actors when they themselves need to do the work. This phrase they like to say a lot, do the work. Do the work and ask yourself, why did you have that stereotype?
She figured out the crowd she was keeping was mucked up. She figured out these liberal son bitches were messed up completely. Their brains were broken. She also found there was a lot of hypocrisy. Now, Dave Rubin also had the same exact arc, and I've already mentioned Dave Rubin earlier, and of course he's going to come up again on Friday because obviously there was a very interesting video that I'm going to respond to some of, and of course also to the Jillian Michaels interview too. But of course, I need to go back and rewatch it one more time because I was actually amazed the amount of topics they brought up. The fact of the matter is that what happened in Ana Kasparian's case is that over time she started to realize that that side of the aisle was insane, that they were in fact a cult. As a matter of fact, there was even a Twitter exchange where she had with somebody that was basically attacking her, and she said, "You're in a cult." Also, given all the content that's been made about her, about other leftist content creators, I'm pretty sure she just got upset with it. So, yeah, we've been documenting this for the past 2 or 3 years, and we're beginning to see that she's starting to break away from the loony side of the left. And we've been saying for a while that she would probably come back more towards the center, and she'd be a little bit easier to talk to and have negotiations with as a person. But, of course, that right there brings us to the beanie guy, and that right there, of course, brings us to the last point, because if anybody understands how bad TYT could be, especially in the earlier days, or the days after 2016, when they really and truly need to keep the grift going, it would be Tim Pool, because there's actually a video out there of him getting screamed and hollered at by Cenk Younger over, let's just say, questioning him about a little thing he talked about. But, of course, hypocrisy is something that does, in fact, get thrown around a lot, especially on the left.
The result, of course, is Cenk Uygur being pressured to fire Ana. He says, for extreme leftists, or whoever you are and whatever you'd like to call yourself, who would like me to fire Ana Kasparian for being open-minded instead of agreeing with you 100% of the time, as you demand, here's my answer. No, F off. Bravo, Cenk Uygur, sir. Cenk Uygur's an interesting guy.
He's just a fat blowhard, Tim.
My respect for him went down, and I'll tell you why. Because I saw him at Politicon, 7 years ago or something. He had run on his channel a smear of Dave Rubin. Whatever. They used fake news to justify their smear of Dave Rubin, for which their thumbnail had my name in the middle of their fake smear piece. It was like this bunch of red lines connecting people and stuff and conspiracies. And so I saw Cenk because I know him and have known him for years. And the last time I talked to him, we were very friendly. And I was like, hey, Cenk, you posted this video thing or whatever, and it's got my name. I've been trying to reach out to you and just say, I don't know what your beef is with Dave Rubin, but I just really don't want to be involved. And he just blew up at me and started yelling at me. He's yelling at me in the middle of Politicon. BBC runs up there filming, and I was like, why are you yelling at me? And he's like, you're a MAGA guy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what are you talking about? That's nuts. Because this was 2017. I had not endorsed Donald Trump. I was speaking out mostly against him, critical of him, just not lying, I guess.
Real quick, before we go any further. That little bit right there is leading a lot of people to believe that there could, in fact, be a situation where TYT kind of turns into breaking points, where she kind of plays more the role of what Sagar and Getty does. But, well, that would actually be pretty daggone entertaining, but that dynamic works better when it's a progressive or it's a liberal and a conservative, and nobody who's conservative wants to be around Cenk because he's a little bit too volatile. Now, of course, I've told you guys before that I think Cenk, for the most part, is a bad actor, and I think he does most of his stuff for show, but still at the same time, though, after a while, when somebody's constantly yelling and screaming and hollering at you and interrupting, I mean, man to man, I probably would want to, I'm not going to say it right here, I'm just simply saying that, yeah, it might get tiring to work with. He went into war mode is what the hell he was doing, Tim. That right there is what he was trying to do. He had already basically taken the stance of anybody right of me is automatically bad. I want to say it was the whole force the vote thing with Jimmy Dore, which I kept up with because I thought was absolutely hilarious to watch these leftists eat each other. That you recall Jimmy Dore right wing when Jimmy Dore is much, much further to the left than Cenk is. He also called Glenn Greenwald right wing, basically called him a fascist. That's basically what they do. It's what these people do. You see, Tim Pool's red pilling process, I think, is quite interesting too, because I think it's along the same lines of what Ana Kasparian's is. You see, Ana Kasparian was already on the team. She was over there. Tim, on the other hand, was more natural as far as being elected because at one time he was a Bernie bro. He actually spoke out about Trump a lot more. We'll get to that here in a second. The thing is this right here. Tim Pool's progression came through conversation with people. It came through opening his eyes and seeing exactly how hypocritical the left was. But I also remember him attacking the right on several occasions too. I don't think I need to go through every single example, but his red pilling process was a little bit more gradual through the form of conversation, talking to people, actually speaking to them, having conversations. Ana Kasparian, on the other hand, never actually had any conversations with anybody on the other side. She basically stayed behind the gate with all the other progressives because they were the ones that were protecting her. That's the way I think about it. It's almost like being inside of prison. You have to form one faction or go with one faction. And, of course, you guys are kind of picking up what I'm saying. After a while, when she began to start going out and actually talking to people, she started to see other perspectives. And she started to question, well, maybe this right here is not what really, maybe this is not what I've been taught. You know, Ben Shapiro was actually very, very nice to me. You know, Dennis Prager was actually very, very nice to me. That is what I think happened to Ana Kasparian. And, of course, having those conversations made her realize that the people she was around, the company that she kept, was absolutely insane, which, of course, she talked about in the article, which we'll get to now.
I also witnessed their cruelty and hypocrisy in real time. These terrible traits that I had associated solely with my political opponents were obviously not exclusive to their tribe. I was stupid for ever thinking that was the case. That doesn't mean everyone on the left thinks or behaves in the way this small group of lunatics do, far from it. But it does mean that there are factions and flaws on both sides of the aisle, and no one has a monopoly on truth. But I got to tell you, Anna, that reality has a right-wing bias, at least right now. Then there was the insane reaction to one of my tweets in March 23. Now,
basically, the company she kept turned on her, but let's listen to some more.
Because Ana Kasparian's a progressive, and when she tweets this, the left loses their mind. She says, I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, birthing person, or person who menstruates. How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this ish. All hell broke loose after I posted those words. Most friends in left-wing media didn't bother reaching out privately to discuss their disagreement with my personal preference. Instead, many self-described socialists took it upon themselves to profit from conflict by publicly attacking me with monetized videos.
Like I said, she was never really and truly a progressive loon. She just so happened to be a liberal, somebody who leans left, that was over there on the opposite side of the fence, that was very, very ignorant of the purity test that the left will in fact play. However, this thing or this bit about monetized content is very interesting.
Hey, Young Turks, remember when you did this to me? I'd like to give a shout out to the Young Turks when I ran a segment talking about how scientific articles have come out showing conservatives tend to be more attractive than liberals. I then talked about privilege and why the left was actually correct about privilege, and this proves it. And the Young Turks, I think it was actually Anna, said, well, Tim's ugly. Look at his face. He's not much of a looker. Thanks for monetizing fake outrage.
There's probably the biggest reason why it is that TYT is not getting the viewership they used to get, because they're all about the fake outrage. Also, to go on top of this, Cenk is even kind of pivoted a little bit more towards the center himself. And of course, I've had people point this out. However, Ana was obviously the first one to pivot towards the center itself. But I honestly believe if you look at the actual timeline of her takes, the actual timeline of everything going on in the country, and the fact that she still holds some of those progressive views, I think that what happened in this case was that Ana Kasparian simply got tired of getting attacked by her own crowd. And of course, she realized that the crowd she was with, the crowd she kept, was in fact a bunch of loons. A bit of conscious, how do I say this? It seems like her conscience was maybe getting to her a little bit on this, but also given the fact that she herself is living with the very, very bad progressive policies of the state of California. And of course, you already heard some of that story from when she got attacked, got assaulted by homeless men. Yeah. You guys can obviously see that it really and truly was not that hard for her to say, screw you guys, I'm going home. people are going to have to learn to get along. People are going to have to learn to do what? They're going to have to learn to realize that you have to work with one another. You see, all these people who keep on saying that there's going to be civil conflict, and Tim Pool's guilty of this too. We already know this. A lot of these people, I think, are looking for good old-fashioned clicks. Rage clicks is what they're looking for. And I think Ana just kind of got tired of it. Ana had actually spent some time having conversations, doing debates with people who were not progressives. Stitch and Adam, I do disagree with them on a lot of things, but they're not progressive. She talked with them for like 3 or 4 hours and kind of got their points of view on a couple of things. She had a conversation with Ben Shapiro, a debate with him, where he absolutely creamed her, and you saw exactly how ignorant she was. I'm pretty sure she looks back at the debate she had at Politicon with Ann Coulter, and I'm not a fan of Ann Coulter. I'm not a fan of her personally. We kind of agree on the same policy. Same thing with Ben, but I'm not a fan of either one of those people. She probably looked back on it and said, damn, this woman was actually much, much smarter than me. This woman had a lot of things. She was right about a lot of things. It's probably stuff like that right there, coupled with the fact that, of course, the progressives have turned on her before, the loons, and given the fact that she has some now lived experience with the situation, that, yeah, it would be a lot easier for her to look at these people and say, you're all a bunch of loons, and I'm out. So, what does that mean going forward with her? Well, like I said, we're going to have a part 2 where I'm going to look more at what was talked about on the Jillian Michaels interview, because what I saw of it, there was a lot that was discussed. There were a lot more instances about the left that she talked about that, of course, Jillian kind of related to. We'll talk more about that in Friday's video, which will probably be a relatively lengthy video. Probably the only video that comes out for Friday, but I'll probably get one video out on Saturday and then one on Sunday. It all kind of depends. I mean, I'm going to try to gear my content. I'm going to try to start doing the content gearing, at least the direction here. So you're probably going to see a ramp up in content, probably starting next week, because I do have a doctor's appointment on the 29th and the 5th. But in the meantime, though, still, we got more to talk about with this matter, because obviously there's a lot more to discuss on this issue about Ana Kasparian leaving the left, because we did kind of say that it was eventually going to happen. Now, as far as the future is concerned, Cenk Jr. is saying that he will not fire her, but I personally do not believe that she will be there beyond election season. But you guys will talk more about that in the video that's set to come out on Friday. I just got to kind of write those thoughts up to put into a video. With that right there being said, make sure you guys please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share the video, sign off in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say, and I'll see you guys later.